All right, Math 2, Unit 7, Pythagorean Theorem. So I've already got some notes written here. I'm going to read them. In a right triangle with legs A and B and the hypotenuse C, A squared plus B squared equals C squared. And that's probably not new to most of you. That's probably something that you've used before. Some things that we need to remember. The hypotenuse is the opposite of the right angle. It is also the longest side of the triangle. The legs are the other two sides. They're the two non-hypotenuse sides. So if we're talking about a triangle down here, we have the right angle, and if you draw an arrow leaving the right angle, it always points to the hypotenuse. That's one way. If you're ever confused, that's how to find the hypotenuse. You draw your arrow out of the right angle. All right, so if you need to pause the video, do so now so you can copy that down. And I'm going to go on to number 2. Alrighty, number 2. So first off, we need to decide where's the hypotenuse. We draw an arrow out of the right angle. Here's our hypotenuse. Here's our leg, and here's our other leg. Also, the directions say leave your answer in simplest radical form. So we don't want to type in the root into the calculator. We want to make sure that we leave the root there. It's going to be precise. It's going to be 100% correct, right? We're not going to have to round at all. So let's look here. We could call this leg our A, and then B and C. So we're going to have, well, A squared plus B squared equals C squared. And I'm just going to plug into that. So I'm going to have x squared plus 11 squared equals 14 squared. And if I go ahead and square those, I'm going to have x squared plus 121 equals, well, what is 14 squared? 196. If I subtract 121 from both sides, I'm going to have 75. So x squared is 75. And lastly, to find our x, I need to take a square root of both sides. And I get x equals root 75. Now, I know sometimes we talk about roots having a positive and a negative piece, right? You could say, if you really wanted to, you could say plus or minus right there. Since we're dealing with geometry, since we're dealing with side lengths, we're only going to care about the longer, or the positive version of that, right? It doesn't really make sense to have a negative side length, so we're going to ignore that part of it. So root 75. But we want it to be in simplest radical form. So we're going to go back to our previous section, and we want this to be as simple as we can. We're going to need to prime factorize, and we're going to need to simplify this. So let's break apart 75. 75 can break up into 5. We can divide 5 out of it, and we get 5 and 15. 15 can break up into 5 and 3. So you have a pair of 5s and a single 3. So x equals 5 root 3. And do we have a side length for this? Kilometers. There we are. That's our side length. Notice that whenever I was at this step here, I couldn't subtract the 11 yet. I had to square it and make it 121. It won't work. In almost every circumstance, it will not work if you subtract the 11 over to the 14. All right, make sure that you square them before you try to add and subtract. All right, number 3. Our hypotenuse comes out of our right angle. So here's our hypotenuse. So I'll call this our A, our B, and our C. So I'm going to say, well, x squared plus root 101 squared equals 14 squared. And this kind of problem is actually kind of nice with the root in it, because whenever you take a root and a square, they cancel each other out. So this is x squared plus 101 equals 196. We subtract 101 to the other side, and we get, well, x squared is 95. We take our root of both sides. X is root 95. And like I said in the last one, we don't really care about the negative version of the root. We only care about that positive version. So now I'm going to break apart 95. Well, we could divide a 5 out of there. 5 and 19. 19 won't split up. 5 won't split up. So we're just stuck. And that's as far as we can go with our answer. So we just put miles and we circle our answer. And we're done. So notice that not always are we able to split up a root, right? Sometimes it's already in simplest radical form. Number 4, there's our hypotenuse. So we'll say, well, here's A, here's B, and here's C. So I could say, well, x squared plus 7 squared equals 14 squared. So x squared plus 49 equals 196. X squared is 147. Right, so what I did there is I started off by plugging in my A, B, and C. I squared them all to get that second line, and then I subtracted my 49 to the other side. Now that we're that far, we can take our roots, and I get, well, x equals root 147, and we want to see, well, can I break up 147? Can I break that up? Can I divide by 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12? I can divide by 3. 3 and 49, and 49 can break up into 7 and 7. I have a pair of 7s and a single 3, so I'm going to have, well, x equals 7 root 3. My units are centimeters. There we are. Number 5. Our hypotenuse is opposite the right angle. So we'll say, well, here's A, here's B, and here's C. This is the first time that our C is our hypotenuse. So we're going to have, well, 5 squared plus 10 squared is x squared. So 25 plus 100 is x squared. 125 is x squared. And now we need to take our roots. And I'm also going to kind of flip over the equal sign because I like my x to be on the left. So I'm going to say, well, x equals root 125. We need to break up 125. It can divide into 5 and 25. And it can divide again into 5 and 5. So we have a pair of 5s and a single 5. So 5 root 5, and our units are feet here. There we are. All right, number 6. Ooh, what does this say? Find the missing side of each right triangle. Side C is the hypotenuse. A and B are the legs. Leave your answers in simplest radical form. So these last 4 problems, the only difference is that we don't have a picture. They tell us what A and B are, or what A and C are in number 6's case. So we're going to say, well, 4 squared plus, we'll call it x squared equals 16 squared. All right. My A went to the A spot. My C went to the C spot. 16 plus x squared equals 256. I squared 16. I subtract 16 to the other side, and I get, well, x squared is 240. We take our roots. X equals root 240. And I know I've shown you guys this a few times, but sometimes I like to pull over my factor tree to the side. I think it makes my work a little bit prettier. I'll take apart a 10 and 24 right away. 10 can split up into 5 and 2, 24 into 2 and 12, then 2 and 6, then 2 and 3. So I've got a pair of 2's here, a pair of 2's here, a single 3 and a single 5. So I have 2 pairs of 2's to go outside, a 5 and a 3 to stay inside, for root 15, and my units are kilometers. All right, there we are. Number 7. So plugging in for A and B and C, well, for A and B, and then C is going to be X. I'll say, well, root 5 squared plus 2 root 3 squared equals X squared. So my root 5 just goes away and it's a 5. Now, this 2 root 3 squared, my square here goes to the 2 and to the 3. Whenever it's on the 2, it turns it into a 4. Whenever it's on the root 3, it turns it into a 3. Right? Make sure that you always distribute that, that exponent to both pieces. So we're going to have 5 plus 12 is x squared, which is 17 is x squared. I take my root of both sides, and I'm also going to flip it over so that my x is on the left. So x equals root 17. 17 can't break up, 17 is prime, so it's just plain old 17, and our units are centimeters. All right. Number 8. I have A, which is 8, so 8 squared, plus, we don't have B, so x squared equals 15 squared. Right. Another way to write this would be me saying, well, B equals x. If you wanted to, you could use B as your variable here. I don't think it makes much of a difference. So I'm going to have, well, 64 plus x squared equals 225. I subtract 64 for both sides, and I get, well, x squared equals 161. We take our roots. X equals root 161. And I'm not sure, what can I split that up into? I can't do 3. Can I do 7? I can do 7. 7 and 23. 23, I think, can divide by 7. No, it cannot. What can I divide 23 into? I don't think there's anything. I'm not seeing anything. I think that we're done. I think that we can't split that up anymore, so we're just going to have to leave it with root 161. And our units are going to be miles. All right, last problem, number 9. We're going to say, well, A, 4 squared, plus B, well, there's no B, so x squared, equals C squared, so 12 squared. So 16 plus x squared equals 144. Subtract 16 from both sides, and I get, well, x squared equals 128. Take my roots. So x equals root 128. 128 we can split up with a bunch of 2's. 128 divided by 2 is 64. 64 and 2. And I'm going to split this up into 8 and 8. And then each of these 8's splits up into 2, 2, and 2. Right, that's kind of cheating, me going the fast way there. There we are. Now what I did there with the 8's splitting up into 3 things, the reason I was able to do that is because I know that 8 would split up into 4 and 2, and then 2 and 2, so I just kind of skipped the part where I wrote the 4. And you're welcome to do that if you're able to do that. So x equals, well, I have 1, 2, 3 pairs of 2, so 8 root 2. And there we are.